we are very lucky to have Mr. Arvind Virmani with us, who is from Niti Aayog. And thank you, sir, for giving your time. You're about to travel, but still you gave the time interim way. I thank you for that. And I'd like to take your views, your experience, which has been tremendous. So you come with a very varied experience and a very macro come micro view of our nation and our national policies. So among others, you've also been to the CEA to the government and an ED to the IMF, etc. So I would like to take a generic view. How do you feel we are as a nation on the insurance domain? That is the life, general health, everything. Generally, what is the overall view? How are we doing?
So, of course, there are kind of three major segments, I would say: life insurance, general insurance, and health. As you know, the health used to be considered generally a part of the general, and same rules applied. But during the last 10 years, the health has been separated and made more prominent by itself, health insurance. So that is a good thing, because the risk factors in general insurance are generally relatively different from health insurance, and to some extent the health insurance is also related to life insurance. The first thing is this kind of carving out and giving more emphasis to health insurance is clearly good. The second aspect, I think, which has developed over the 10 years is that the conceptually, of course, we have had since independence, more or less, since 60s, health, of course, first constitution is a state subject, and from the 60s or so, different states at different pace developed the primary health centers, secondary health centers, etc., to provide universal health care. So it's kind of interesting that many people don't know that this is not new. This is a commitment of the states, and the result, looking at now, you have to look at the history. So some states did better, some did worse, etc. Now, insurance, as you know, the financial sector, the rules, regulations, etc., come under the aegis of the union government, whereas health per se is under the states. It's one of the few state subjects. I'm sure you are aware the state list, union list, and the concurrent list. So when the constitution was made, health, education were and certain other welfare related elements were in the states list of the constitution. So they really have to be delivered, conceived, etc. at the ground level. So there's a principle of subsidiarity. But so financial sector, on the other hand, is in the union list. So combining these two, in a sense, is a challenge because of this division. But I think a lot more emphasis has been given to insurance and following from that private insurance I'm talking about particularly, but even public insurance. Because that is at the union government level. Given this development, there is also a pressure to say, okay, if you have insurance, who is going to meet the insurance need when the event occurs? So related to that, some more emphasis on incentivizing, promoting hospitals at the down at the district and block level. So that is the broad picture of insurance. Of course, the third element actually I should mention is that till when I was in government during that time, till then life insurance was a monopoly. General insurance, there were 4 companies. Since then, the liberalization, the entry of private sector, and then subsequently even the foreign companies, generally in collaboration with or in joint ventures with domestic companies, has progressed a lot, and so the competition for all these segments of the insurance industries has increased due to policy measures taken. over the last 10-15 years.
Great. We have got a good foundation. So now with the fintech and the insurtech, the new babies in the town who are there, and they're the blue-eyed boys across the globe. And how do you think we stand in the fintech and insurtech world compared to the nation? General overview.
So the fintech and insurtech, I guess there are two elements. The question is that given that we have such a vast population spread over, the rural areas, this number is repeated every time. 2/3 or more of 2/3 of the population lives more or less in rural areas, right? So in that sense, the cost of delivery increases the less dense the population is, right? So urban areas, you have a concentration of population, the delivery of insurance and the health product, because health costs affect insurance costs also, right? They are related. So the delivery of both the health services and the insurance products, the cost increases in less dense areas. So that means in rural and health. So the fintech is absolutely a boon. I mean, one has been talking about e-services for since at least 2006 when I wrote a paper in what was then the Planning Commission in this building only. That's clear. The clear advantage of that is accessibility over the wire, right? So the whole point of fintech is you can deliver the product over the internet. You can fill out the forms over the internet, etc. Deliver the payments over the internet now. So fintech is critical for reaching all forms of insurance into particularly into the rural areas, but of course it's contributing and being used even in the urban areas. So the delivery costs, in a sense, go down a lot, and also the reach of the new products, insurance product, credit products, other types of products increases with the use of digital data, etc. One is the delivery cost, the other is the use of data, which then once used reduces the risk of lending to groups of potential insured product people below what it would have otherwise been. So two elements of it. One is reduction in the cost of delivery. Second, the access and processing use of data, which reduces the risk of certain populations which were considered earlier too risky to insure.
True. So when you talk about data, do you think as a nation we really have centralized data, financial, medical, or insurance data? We have the credit bureaus, of course, for the banking side, which of course takes care of a part of the banking because not everybody will be having a credit card or loan. So the credit bureaus are that piece. Other than that,
so I think to the extent that this is not present in the insurance industry, some equivalent of credit bureaus, but more I think the need is for a database of fraudulent use of insurance rather than of a credit type bureau. Credit bureau comes in when you're trying to lend. The equivalent of that would be when you're trying to insure. But that is not a problem I've heard. What I have heard is the other side of the picture. After you lend, the kind of fraudulent behavior of certain people, for example, exaggerating the health emergency or paying to people or misdemanding, that kind of fraud. I think it would be useful to have some kind of database which is accessible to insurers.
true. So in fact, you raised a very valid point and something very close to my heart. As a nation, okay, or the way our industry works, insurance industry, it's like catch me if you can. Okay, that means if a person is caught doing a fraud in insurance, the maximum he loses is not get his claim. कोई एक्शन नहीं होता उसके अगेंस्ट because unfortunately while the new laws have been articulated recently, they have come into play, but then the new laws are modification of existing ones. They are not brought criminal, they have not made any financial crimes, insurance crimes or banking crimes as a crime. So because of which, if I do a fraud, okay, maximum kya hoga? I'll invest some money as a premium. If I get the claim, I am enriched. If not, it's a gambling. I lose that premium. I have nothing to lose. And then the onus of the documentation is on the customer. That means it's on the insurer to get from the customer. The OPD papers or health papers are not centralized. It's with the customer. Financials are with the customer. So insurance company, if it has to reject a claim, after proving a fraud, it has to prove it from its side. So
But,
can we do something about it?
But all over the world, the insurance companies work with the hospital. So the hospital, to attract insured customers, has to do the paperwork for the insurance company. So this is possible here also. So to the extent that what you're talking about is where the insured person is doing something fraudulent. So that would be caught. That data can be got from the from the hospitals to the insurance company.
Maybe to some extent with respect to health insurance, but for life. Life insurance, the amounts are huge. The frauds run into hundreds of crores. In fact, I always, when I give a presentation, I say that
There are two aspects of it. One is now we have universal Aadhaar more or less, and the only issue is, and I know that the system for uh, kind of finishing of the Aadhaar of people die. I've had relatives die, and you have to register and tell them that this is the Aadhaar. So that now system is being put in place. So there will be a record at some point in the future of which Aadhaar person has died. So the Aadhaar system will evolve into that, but it takes time.
Yeah. So do you think Aadhaar,
Like,
is it
I mean,
possible for us to terminate?
Somebody like my father who died 10 years or whatever ago, that is not there, right? So, but once we have instituted the system, the data will arise and will be accessible.
So is it possible for us to close Aadhaar?
Right. So the point close, that is what is happening. No? It gets deregistered. That's what it is now. In the crematorium or wherever you go, they ask for the Aadhaar number and a copy of the deceased person that is required. They have to report to the MCD. I mean, I only know about Delhi, but in principle, that should be happening all over the country. So this record will go into the system. So the record will show XYZ with this and this Aadhaar number has passed away. That system has started in the urban areas, I presume. I have not been investigating this issue, but system is in place and will evolve.
Yeah,
But the fraud I'm talking about is slightly different. It is, you said health, you agreed. This will come. The third point you made is about whether it's a crime or not. I don't think every single sector and every subsector should have their own law. I think you have to have a general law which defines cheating in some form. Right? It's a kind of financial cheating, right? There should be one law for cheating. And the question is that you define it in such a way that you don't need thousands of rules and regulations.
No, we're not talking about laws. We're talking about some sections which will define this.
That should come under cheating, financial cheating, whether you take somebody's deposit and don't deposit it, or any other financial cheating is like theft, right? So it should come if you declare false thing. This is my view. I have no idea what others think, but in my view, there is a simple way to define all such financial frauds, which is a single definition. You don't need thousands of definitions in every sector. To me, it's a different form of theft.
There are section 4.
It's like theft through insurance or theft through whatever. What is theft? If I come into your house and steal your money, that is theft.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not entering your thing, but I'm doing the same thing in insurance. The penalties can be different, but the concept is the same. It's like if I'm misdeclaring, you only owe me 100 for the health insurance or whatever. Life insurance obviously is a fraud, right? So it's like cheating. I am not the person who should get it, or the fellow has not died and you're getting it is cheating, right? It's theft. Theft of somebody's money. But it's just not a physical theft, it's a financial theft. I think the law can be changed, one law, to cover it instead of making 10.
No. We're not talking about
No, but that's what happens now. When you ask for such a thing, I'm telling you what happens. You may not talk about it now. Everybody wants their own law. So insurance will ask, pension will ask, banks will ask, NBFC will ask. Everybody wants their own law. I am saying we should be more fundamental. Do we want 1,000 laws? One simple law. It is just a form of theft. It's just not that I'm breaking into your house. That's all that's missing. It's the same thing. It's financially you're cheating.
The truth is that
Cheating is the same thing all
no,
over.
I agree, sir. The truth is that
Anyway, we are not here to debate. That is my view.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So they started to say the truth is that when we go to the police station, they say आपका कोई loss हुआ नहीं है. So it doesn't fall into the section. If you're not paid the claim,
Insurance का हुआ है ना?
नहीं, if you're
Fine
not paid,
करेगा case.
if you're not paid the claim, if you're repudiated, it's not a loss.
Sorry.
If you're not paid the claim,
Uh,
so there is no loss to you. So there is no case. That means if I reject the claim as an insurer,
yeah. So you rejected it. Where is the?
yeah, there is no crime. That means he can again next time do it. So if he
Yeah, but that
succeeds,
is what the bureau I'm talking about. No?
Yeah.
You have to see the problem and the solution. No? I am telling you that is what you need a case file, a database. Yeah.
True.
There is one thing for fraud which is theft. And when there is no fraud as such in financial term, you need a database. कि ये लोग और ये institution कर रहे हैं. Then you check out. Obviously, they'll be ruled out next time. Why do you need a legal and a criminal act for it? That is the bureau. I agreed right away. Perhaps you did not understand. I said we need the equivalent of a credit bureau for these cases of fraud. Then you will have the information. Na? एक बंदे ने किया उसका नाम उसमें आ जाएगा आप चेक करिए. The solution is that it's solved. The problem is solved. Unless you have a moral thing, and I am not. I am giving you an economic solution to an economic problem.
sir, how do you think this blockchain, AI, ML, what are the boons and banes?
Sorry?
The AI, ML, when we talk about it, what are the boons and banes of it?
The words you are using are very unfamiliar. Bones and...
That is, achai or burai. What would be the goods and bads about it?
Okay. The gains and losses you meant.
Yeah, the
Boons
goods and
is a very interesting word. You're right.
The goods and bads.
Literature. It must really have read Shakespeare or something. Anyway.
It's about the goods and bads. That is, every good, it comes with the bane is basically the negative part of it.
So, enough negatives have been talked about that relate to the frontier. One, to the frontier, which is, artificial intelligence becoming the ruler of the world, that kind of stuff. Let's leave for the philosophers. The practical one is here already. People use for positive or negative, like any technology. Unfortunately, this technology is so easy to use. When we talk about nuclear technology for good and bad, that's very difficult. You need huge organization. But AI, good and bad, especially the bad, is easy. You can fake people's faces, you can all kinds of things, right? For fake news, that is here. So that is the bad, which is now well known and debated. The second element, so the positive, the way I look at it is there's always a threat. So what is the opportunity? How to create threat into opportunity? And basically, I view AI as how can we use it to solve problems and to enhance capabilities. Unfortunately, for your thing, the examples are more in the field of education and health. Well, health may help. Where basically what we already know from the research is that the biggest benefits right now from AI, which are demonstrated, is that lower qualified people can perform like middle qualified, and middle qualified can perform like high. So basically, in many fields like legal, etc., legal is slightly different, but many fields where beyond legal is just is slightly different. I'll tell you what the difference is. But the research has shown that AI can be used to improve the performance, not improve performance just in terms of level, but the whole quality can be shifted. Okay, so that is the part which I am interested in, which I have been talking about since, or writing about 2006 at least, is that how can we use AI and related technologies? Related technologies are already there. They were there 10 years ago. Okay, I'm not even talking about frontier. We still haven't used those. We are using it, but the general public doesn't seem to realize. You can firstly use AI to enhance the quality of teaching. Okay, when we say teaching and learning or student, they always think student kind of sitting there alone and doing it. No, the teacher can become much qualified. If you take an ordinary teacher, he or she can perform at the middle level. If you get a middle level teacher, they can perform at the high level. Same with nurses, with health professionals, with doctors. So if you are in a rural area where a proper teacher does not want to go because he wants to sit in the urban area, you can use the internet to enhance the quality of teaching. There can be a local person there who is connected to a better teacher. Okay, the quality of teaching, of nursing, of medical can be enhanced by what I call expert system. They are an earlier version of AI. Okay, they were called expert system 10, 15 years ago, and we could have developed. We are doing now. There's many platforms the government has created, but there is not enough understanding in the public how important this is. Whenever we talk about AI in learning, they think somebody sitting by themselves and learning by themselves. That is not what I am talking about. That has been there for 10, 15 years also, but that's not it. That has been shown that those benefits of that go to a very small proportion. By nature, schooling has to have a teacher of some sort who can see what the other person is doing, what he is interested in, what is his level, because the levels are all different. And schooling is also about socialization. So the education system can't be that everybody sits and owns and learns. So my focus has always been to enhance the quality of teaching, to raise the quality of the rural teaching. Okay? In the rural areas, 40%, only 40% roughly of children who have passed क्या कहते हैं primary school can read even at the minimum level. They pass primary school. They have a little certificate. 60% of them cannot read at the minimum level. So I'm just giving example because I've been working on education skilling. Same for skilling, and similarly for health. Health we do not have precise data like the one I have because the rural data comes from ASR. There is no such data, kind of data. But the same thing can be done everywhere. Of course, related to insurance, etc., education, what they call financial literacy, etc., would also you could use these systems.
In fact, I would like to ask you in this relation. So, the education which we have been imparting to our children, okay, as a nation, as an education system, so it's obviously going up. But then you use the word financial literacy. Today, I think our children, even at school or college level, are not taught about insurance, importance of insurance, and we talk about forensics today. Okay, data predictive modeling. How can we, you being part of Niti Aayog are probably the best person to speak about it. How can we actually bring this as a part of education? Okay. Can we improve the quality of education, like bringing this as a courses?
So there are two things. One is the whole emphasis on what I call credentials. A piece of paper that you've gone through a whole long, exhausting course or whatever the course material you covered theoretically, and you get a piece of paper. The other is learning.
Okay.
So the situation in just functional literacy is even worse. Okay, I said 60% couldn't read at standard 2. The numbers who can't even do subtraction is even higher. Okay? So they are not taught. Perhaps part of it is motivation. You just do what we call ratta, 1, 2, 3, वो भी नहीं पता. 20% don't even know कि 1, 2, 9, 22 क्या है. उसको 20 दिखाओगे 22 को कह नहीं सकता ये क्या है. मैं अंग्रेजी में नहीं बोल रहा, जो भी उसकी लैंग्वेज है. Okay? So basic functional, what is called, which emphasized in the new education policy, first aid, and second is connecting this teaching not to your academic but to real life. So it is the curriculum. and the approach to teaching. So skilling means the whole concept of skilling is connected to some real life, connected to some real job. Theoretically, they are learning all these things by themselves. They are not, because you've got a course which is academic. So in the course itself, जो arithmetic का course है उसमें आप दिखा सकते हो कि उनको पता नहीं interest rate कैसे calculate करना है. What's the problem? Your math course should have calculation of interest rate. आप जब बड़े हो गए आप लोन लोगे वगैरह करना पड़ेगा कि नहीं? Why just do theoretical problems? Why not do the real world problems you will be confronted with? That's the whole point. Is to reform the curriculum, to orient it towards skills, job skills, life skills. So change the curriculum, change the way of teaching. Okay, and all this can be helped by AI. AI we need a basic expert system, as I say. You can have experiments. You could have a repository of experiments which you can say or show online. In rural areas, you may not have beakers or कोई चीजें mechanical कुछ वो बनाने की. You can all show it on the thing. Every child can be able to see कि भाई देखो ये क्या हो रहा है. इसने ये उसमें डाला है या इसको ये चार चीजें कनेक्ट की हैं तो मोटर बन गया. I'm just giving an example. The teacher, I'm not a teacher. They will know what to teach, no? At each level. So that is what my thinking on AI is. And your specific problems, I agree. You have to teach them life skills. I mean, like we say, reading, writing, arithmetic, and then the later, instead of just teaching, equations or how to solve equations, you connect it to some life problems. No? क्यों ये use है? I mean, not everything can be connected, but at least in elementary or lower secondary, you can do that. No? कि जो आप काम करना होगा उसमें क्या चाहिए होगा. For example, now that the internet is so pervasive, one of the things they should know is कि कोई information चाहिए, data चाहिए, internet पे जाके ढूंढो. अभी तो हम ये भी नहीं सिखाते. Okay, so the whole curriculum, the way of teaching, pedagogy, that can all be done. You can make a centralized thing, and then every teacher can use it.
So are we working on this? Is it like that?
Yes, there are many initiatives in thing, but we are not here to discuss that. But there are Sati programs, there are tons of those, but that's a discussion on education and skilling. But I was just trying to illustrate what AI, internet, how useful it can be.
Sir, what would you like to talk about the information security, the threats which we are facing? Okay, so
Yeah,
obviously
so
the banks are
information and cyber security is absolutely vital. The problem is that only the experts really know how serious the problem is. Okay, this is something again. I don't want to name countries, but we know that certain non-democratic, non-market economies have been named all over for spying, for planting thing. The most recent case is that they found the weaknesses in the telecom system of USA. So these क्या कहते हैं, cyber criminals based in a particular, presumably backed by a certain country, we should not name, you can find it in the newspapers, which is gone through, they have discovered some simple holes, what do you call them, gateways होता है ना. You find a place where you can get into the system, and they've infected the whole telecom system virtually. The gateway is that in, let's say 15 years ago, there was certain system, a lot of weaknesses. On top of that, they built the new systems. So वो पुराने वाले वही हैं, and those are easily hackable. So they've hacked the whole system. You get in through that the old technology system, and then you hack into the new one. You can't directly do it anymore. So there are these huge dangers of cyber. Of course, I don't even need to mention the gangs, the international gangs, etc. And people in every level of person can be affected by different levels of, obviously the country ones are going after national security, that sort of issue, but there are big gangs which go after big companies and rich people, but they are now gangs at every level. There will be gangs who will target us. There will be gangs who target even poor people. That somebody gets a pension insurance, they know They have lists of things and they will target them to try and get that money from them. So cyber security is absolutely critical.
So anything that we're working, of course, I don't expect you to give the backdoor information. Anything that you're working on, because the amount of calls we get, like
No, there are two aspects. Please remember, cyber, that is not cyber security.
yeah,
Okay, that is just fraud.
The
The
same-
same kind of fraud we were talking about.
yeah, but information is coming out. For example, if I renew my policy with an insurance company, within 3 days I get a call saying that you renewed it. So it's not a static database. How did he know that 3 days back my policy is got renewed?
Yeah, so you'll have to ask the experts. I'm not an expert on insurance databases, etc. But that is a cyber security. If the information comes from electronic database, then it's an issue of cyber security. The calls we get from just saying okay, your
True. That is
your
information.
father in XYZ country who was there is dying or something, that is a different type of fraud. Okay, that is not cyber. That is plain fraud. Okay, so the cyber fraud means they are accessing your databases. Okay, because to do that, you have to get into that.
Actually,
That
we
is
have done
something
that.
where there is a serious problem. People don't have simple passwords. Still, they've done studies. I forget the number, but half the people still use simple password like 123.
ABCD and 1, 2, 3, 4. Agreed, sir.
Okay.
In fact, sir, what you raised is a very valid
So
point.
it's a why I'm emphasizing it's from ground up to the top. Don't only think of the top level.
Sir,
Your own
correct.
password.
Correct.
Your
That
own
also needs to
user.
be part of the
They
curriculum.
should have a password. What I say is people are now using passwords, complicated passwords, where they put back into the computer. I only personally advise have a little booklet. Don't put your password back onto the computer. Somebody will eventually find them. Have a little passbook, small diary, and note all your passwords in it. When it changes, cut it out or something. Have a system, okay, and change the password, especially for financial related stuff. No?
Right.
For other things may not matter. Certain things doesn't matter that much. If you are in X or something, somebody gets in, thoda problem hai, but still. But your money goes, what are you going to do?
Sir, one question. Since India as a nation is high on the agricultural revenue part, right? So more than 60% is supposed to be agricultural economy of the country. And the problem which the insurance industry faces, and to some extent banks, is the documentation for them. Suppose if somebody comes up and says, I want a policy and I want to pay premium, okay, 10 lakh rupees premium, he may have the money, but we need to compute it. So for computing, we need documentation. He will say, I don't have a return. मेरे पास form 49 है, form 60 भर दिया है मैंने. So form
You are asking me what the private sector should do. Ask them. I will ask them. I mean, that is not really a job for government. No? You tell me. You are from the industry. I mean, you have to do the work. You have to find a way. That's how you'll make the money. Insurance company will find that how to do it. Will make money. If I was going to do it, I'll go out and make money. Why should I be sitting here? That is not the kind of job we do. That is your job. That's the private sector's job. You find out how to find out now.
So it doesn't have an official.
जाके उसको बात करो. I mean, what this thing you're asking me how to market insurance? Come on.
No. I'm not asking marketing insurance.
नहीं, what else are you
There
asking
are
me?
no official financial documentation.
Yeah, so what can I do? You have to go to the fertilizer companies he's buying, go to his sales outlet he's buying. I mean, you go to, that's the job of the private sector. Na? You want to sell insurance, you go and find out.
So last but not
I mean, है ही नहीं database तो मैं क्या करूँ? वो income tax नहीं देते अब मुझे कह रहा हूँ. You think the politician should impose income tax so you can have data? I mean,
no.
then what? Any data तो नहीं है मतलब क्यों नहीं है क्योंकि वो इनकम टैक्स फाइल नहीं करते दे आर नॉट दे डोंट हैव टू मैं उसका मैं इंश्योरेंस के लिए चेंज कर दूं दैट्स नॉट थिंग I mean there are surveys you can go and look at the surveys but they are general survey that's what people do they get district level data and say okay there the farmers have so much income or whatever look at the surveys that's all we have you have to use whatever data is available.
Sir, this maybe not completely in your purview. You may choose to defer the answer. Our KYC process. Can I ask you something on that?
Yeah, you can ask anything, but let's go quickly.
Yeah, just last 2 minutes only.
Right.
So our KYC process, sir, basically, like, of course, it's quite digital, it's quite advanced, but then it still is little complex from a banking point of view or an insurance point of view. Do you think anything is likely to happen on the simplicity? Because, for example, a re-KYC comes up every time. Though we are saying digital self-attested document bhijo and all those things. So anything is being worked on this side?
Working, those are the people who are doing it. You're saying worked on. ये कहाँ से आ रहा है बताओ मुझे.
Yeah.
जो आप कह रहे हो वो कह रहे हैं KYC करो, कौन करवा रहा है?
The banks.
Yes, banks are saying. Who do you think is saying?
The government is saying KYC.
The government is not saying. Who is saying? मेरे को बताइए आप.
It's a regulatory requirement.
Yes, it's a regulator who's saying. Regulatory requirement. मैं कह रहा हूँ यहाँ से. Regulator is RBI. No? Why don't you say it? Why are you afraid? If there is a problem, you say it now. You are a journalist. You are not the bank. Regulator कह रहा है, उनसे पूछिए क्यों कह रहे हैं आप? Why are you doing it? Okay? Why do you keep asking banks to do regulatory etc. every time? Okay, I can only guess. They are the ones who should tell you, no?
Great. That is a nice answer there. So, one last question. Again,
There must be a reason. That's why I don't want to comment. I don't want to speculate. I have reasons, but the issue is clear. If you have a digital world which is all organized properly, unless there is a problem, it should be one time. So then you have to ask and tell me, na, कि why did they do it? What is their reason? अगर हो गया है, there must be a reason. If you tell me the reason, I'll tell you whether it's valid or not. Okay?
Great.
But the principle is clear. I mean, if you have a digital data bank, you checked everything and you put it, why there should not be a need. That means either in your digital system there's something discovered wrong or something. No? There must be some problem.
Great.
Which I don't know. So I don't want to criticize.
Very fair, sir. Obviously, I don't expect you to say. So last question.
No, but I do want to clarify the issue. I have clarified. It's important to understand.
Okay, I got the answer. So last question. So our regulator IRD has spoken about penetration of insurance across the nation, across all people by 2047. So you can give a generic view out of your experience, etc. How do you think the next 23 years we can make it possible? It's absolutely more.
So, I think one of the weaknesses I found in all regulators, okay, is that there is a lack of understanding or inadequate understanding of the whole concept of startups. Unfortunately, a government or a finance minister who I worked under, but fortunately I had left when he did this, tax changes. Okay, they happened. I think after I left, I finished my tenure as CA in 2009, October. I think the tax was changed against startups in 2010 or 2011. I strongly oppose that from outside. It showed complete lack of understanding of what a startup is. Do you remember the tax? It was called the angel tax or something.
Yes.
That has no support in any tax theory which I have learned. Believe me, I have read a lot of tax theory. Okay, and I've worked on every tax reform this country has had. That was completely wrong. Fortunately, finally, after a big struggle, the last budget abolished it. The point I'm making here is that regulators still do not understand the whole point of a startup is risk taking. And if you cut off the avenues by which the risk taking process comes up, then you're undermining the whole thing. Why I'm emphasizing startups is because they are critical to this issue which we have raised, taking insurance, taking credit. And fintech we've already talked about, so that's why I'm focusing on insurance. I'm saying all of them. I have seen examples in banking, I have seen in others, I have seen in insurance. A lack of understanding of the whole point about startups. They have to take risk. They have to do new things which you are not familiar with. That's the whole point. Okay? So instead of cutting them off and forcing them to become like normal banks or normal insurance companies, you have to be supportive. Obviously, you don't want fraud, but you have a whole system for doing frauds. For example, again, I'm doing insurance because fintech we have discussed, right? I think we discussed that fully. I'm discussing insurance because the same issue is there. So there is this. So insurance, an insurance license, you already have requirement. They must have 100 crore capital, etc. Nobody's saying change those, but at least understand what the risk taking is. Don't do. You don't replicate the whole structure of a corporation. Okay, why is that 100 crore requirement? That if there is a no, it is you have to play your obligation. If you insure people, 100 people, you must have enough resources to pay them.
The reserves and
That is a perfectly valid thing. But then you don't specify how the whole structure should be set up, this, that, and the other. Who can be a owner, who cannot be an owner. Again, the fraud prevention is perfectly okay. If you find there's some cheat who's trying to set it up, yes. But if they are normal people, normal youngsters, they generally be youngsters. Right? That's how the point about fintech and insurtech now, this word is coming. Okay, they are startups. What is a startup? It's a youngster getting an idea and raising the money. That's the essence of a startup. If it's a big company, it's not a startup. Okay? So this concept of a startup is still not understood, as a result of which they tend to make rules which undermine this thing, which will slow down insurance going to the rural areas.
Sir, your expertise area. Same, and basically you said about 100 crores, obviously for the reserves to be built, for the stability, the liquidity ratio, etc. Right? Now we are coming down to bring it to less than 50 crores, etc. Under the new regime which you are planning, and opening up like what happened before nationalization of all the insurance companies. Like all of them merged into one LIC and all of them merged into only 4 GIC companies. Again, we are breaking up and saying let's have lots of micro insurance. Do you think that?
No, we are not breaking up. We are allowing new tech savvy financial companies to come up.
Correct.
We are not taking a big sclerotic company and breaking it
No,
up.
we are not breaking up. We are creating again.
Yeah.
So would it? Do you think the chances of we going back to the same problem of multiple people?
That's a
not
very
able
good
to-
question.
Not able to pay their
Very
claims?
good question which people do not understand and try to ask me. Okay, because those are the kind of things I understand. See, 50 years ago, nobody had a concept of modern regulation. The concept of regulation we had in the socialist period was control. Control and regulation in this sense are completely different. Control कहता है कि you don't do this, you don't do this, you can do this. Regulation is not like that. The regulation is the law defines the law is like law for everybody. There's a thing you can do and you can't do. Problem is with things that you do in financial sector, there's a gray area. That is why you have regulators in finance. There's a gray area because there's information asymmetry. Okay. So, for example, if I am applying for a loan, I know everything about myself, but the other fellow doesn't. Similar things happen in various parts of the financial sector. Again, I'm telling you a simple example. So that's not the problem. There are other problems. But so this information asymmetry means that there are gray areas. Many decisions will be made which are legitimate but appear fraudulent. And the opposite way, there may be some decisions which are fraudulent but are disguised as regulatory. So this is a gray area. That's why you have regulators to judge. Okay, they make certain rules. If they cannot judge, they say, okay, for regulatory purposes, this will not be allowed, or this or that has to be approved by us. Okay, so that is what a regulator is. He is trying to promote the industry by reducing the fraudulent action, but helping others to do more. Otherwise, this thing would not happen at all. Okay, if you just have the law saying 0, 1, things will not happen. Okay, so that is the concept, which is a modern concept. Okay, we did not know this when the coal industry and other insurance industry were done. So that cannot happen now. We know what the issue is. We know. I mean, if you listen, the economics of insurance is so well developed. Economics of credit, economics of insurance is so well developed. I mean, it's like 100x. So it's a different world. Now it is a matter of using these things. The regulator also has to understand. I mean, if there's a regulator who doesn't know anything about modern regulation, then मेरे को मत बोलना कि ये क्यों हुआ है. But we have the means now to ensure that doesn't happen.
Great. Sir, you spoke about taxation, angel tax. So today on a pizza, let's say we say 5% GST, but on an insurance, 18% GST. So how do you
GST
look at
is a complicated, I don't want to discuss piecemeal. I can only say I have a paper when I was chairman of EGROW Foundation board of directors. We had a paper there on GST reform that lays out the whole system. I can tell you if you want and where the insurance fits, but I don't want to go individual. It's a massive simplification. The general principle is very simple that there should be a single rate on 75% of goods and services of 15%. Okay, a zero rate on things which are critical, which you could call basic needs like food, medicine, and health services, and some basic education. And then there have to be some high rates on. We know the usual thing. No? Tobacco comes under the government. Liquor is with state, so we can't talk about it because it's not in GST. So there will be some higher rates on tobacco, let's say automobiles, and 2-3 items. Bus. That's it. You can have a revenue neutral system, you can have an efficient system. So in my category, unless you can show that something, insurance is offsetting. So I'm not sure it comes under the zero. So then everything would have 15. But 15 on the value added, that's the key. Not on the whole concept of value added tax. If I add one unit, whatever it is, and they sold for 10, you don't tax me on the 10. That 15% has been to be on that one.
Sure.
Okay.
So one last question, related to the last question, there's a 2047 part. You're talking about increasing penetration. Okay, you can say it should not be asked, a regulator should be asked. The regulatory reporting from insurance companies is basically what is the premium? It's like a rat race. Premium kitna liya, claim kitna bhara, what statistics, etc. So since you understand stats much better than most of us, there is no statistics which is asking how many new lives have been insured per month. If penetration करना है हमको improve, how many new lives has an insurer?
पेनिट्रेशन को फोर्स करेंगे. अब मेरे को अगर बेनिफिट होगा तो मैं करूंगा ना. मैं इंश्योरेंस कंपनी रन कर रहा हूँ. Why would I not want more customers? So why should the regulator be doing this? The regulator is there to ensure that the money you have collected will be available to pay off the insurance claim. That is the main job of the regulator. Okay, that is why you have actuaries.
Yeah.
Why you have the regulatory conditions on actuaries. That every insurance company has to have an actuary. It's to make sure you'll have the money.
Correct.
And where have you invested? You got to make sure it will be there and not suddenly do kaya. Okay? So that is the basic job of the regulator. The rest is kind of second rung or and then even peripheral. Now in India we have regulatory regulation and development. So this is the development part which is not under conventional regulation. Please understand.
Yes.
That's a separate job given by the government. In a developed country, they don't have that job.
Right, absolutely.
So I just want to talk about the regulatory part. The development part is a separate issue we can discuss.
Thank you very much, sir.